come back in here.
Ranks are not available.
What, today? Skiing? Of course. I wouldn't miss it. Skiing club? Talk to me.
Talk to me.
Did you say about some Gregor? Over here. Hey. Hey.
You want me to like say the argument and stuff, or just kind of just go ahead and start?
However you want it. Yeah, if you do the arguments, then you're going to sit down and they'll do their thing and then they'll give your rebuttal.
Okay. The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution declares a well-regulated militia be necessary and to the security of a free state. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not, I repeat, shall not be infringed. Now, I personally think that this debate should be over right now because just by hearing that statement, how can anyone argue the supreme law of the land? Our founding fathers thought that the right to bear arms was so important that it was incorporated in the Bill of Rights directly after the First Amendment, which protects our freedom of speech and religion. Going by this alone, any control of the purchase of firearms is a violation of the Second Amendment and violating our rights. It's not like anyone can go out and buy a Saturday Night Special out there. Because whether it's constitutional or not, some restriction has been placed on gun ownership. Age limits and registration are some examples, but nowadays those don't really matter, and because they're not obeyed. It may not seem like it may not seem like it, but and especially here in Santa Ana, but some people really enjoy guns for a sport. It's a shame that all this trouble is caused with gun warfare and like drive-by shootings and stuff. I think that if you're going to punish anyone, then punish the person who pulled the trigger. After all, guns don't kill people, people kill people. The NRA has long been battling any type of gun control since they've been started. They're tired of seeing laws proposed and even enacted on the inanimate object used in the crime, the firearm. They believe the criminal who misuses the firearm should be punished. If gun control did occur, do you really think the law-abiding citizens will benefit from it? The death rate may go down a little, but that's because we'll be the only ones dying. The criminals will have nothing to fear from a person who is unarmed. Unfortunately, the courts have interpreted the Second Amendment as applying to the federal governments only. This means that the amendment does not operate as a limitation on the states. However, in recent years, the Supreme Court decisions have been toward making specific provisions of the Bill of Rights applicable to the states through the 14th Amendment. The right to bear arms is still in effect, but under the police power of the states, the courts generally have upheld what they have considered the reasonable regulation of concealed weapons, the possession of weapons, not only ordinarily used in defense or warfare, and the firing of guns in populous areas, and many others. Police power being the right to regulate conduct of persons in furtherance of health, the safety, and the general welfare of its citizens. All this is good, but doing away with arms is not the solution. I believe some restrictions should be made, but you can't take away our rights. In conclusion, let us note that Justice Douglas, in January of 1963, around 11 months before the brutal assassination of President Kennedy, he said, fear of assassination spirit of assassination often produces restraints compatible with dictatorship, but not democracy. I believe that is important, especially in the most difficult of times, that we should strongly stand up for our constitutional rights, those liberties which are rightfully ours.
Okay, when the framers wrote the Constitution, there was no need for any type of gun control. The firearms of that period were just muskets, and they were only used for defense. For the next 75 years, weapons were used for protection from hostile Indians and wild animals. There was no possible way the framers of the Constitution could have foreseen the advances of firearms. Firearms evolved from simple muskets to revolvers to automatic weapons that can fire several hundred rounds per minute. The firearms of the present do not only have a larger capacity for ammunition, but they are much more powerful than weapons created just 50 years ago. Gun control was not really needed before, but because of technological advances, it is now a must. There are many reasons for gun control, but the simplest reason are the 25,000 deaths every year, 40% of which are victims 19 years old or younger. Then come the 200,000 people who are wounded every year. They may not die, but they may suffer blindness, dismemberment, paralyzation, and many more other complications. Gun control is not something new. Many nations in the civilized world already have gun control. Countries such as Japan and England have already instituted gun control measures and have had great success. 800 handgun deaths. A number 23 times greater than England's 35 murders and 260 times greater than Tokyo's 3 murders. Gun control doesn't have to be anything extreme. It can be as simple as a 10 or 15-day waiting period. This waiting period would allow a purchaser to cool off from an argument. It would also allow the dealer to verify the purchaser's identification.
You said it shall not be infringed. How? It has not been incorporated, the Second Amendment has not been incorporated into the states yet. And it says right here, okay, even if it has, okay, the Second Amendment does not afford an individual right to bear arms, as distinct from an individual's participation in a collective body or militia. Okay, so, okay, you say guns for sport. You said guns are good for sport. Okay, what about the sport of it? People like to keep the guns for the sport of it. Okay, I don't like you, Ed. I want to go out and buy a gun now for the sport of it. I'm going to blow your head off. Do you like that? Okay, I don't think so. Okay, he said punish the person. He said punish the person who pulled the trigger. Okay, you said the guns don't handle crime. That's true, the guns don't. But people as a collective whole cannot handle guns. I mean, some people can, but look at the adults around it. Oh, you know, he got my sister pregnant. I'm gonna go blow his head off and stuff. Yes, he did pull that trigger. What was he doing with that gun? He shouldn't have had it to begin with. If there are regulations, how can you say a regulation is infringing on rights? When those rights, it's not taking the power of the gun away, it's just doing a regulation so to see, you know, he has to go through certain procedures, he or she.
President Reagan, he could have just like walked down the street and probably got another gun for the same price. That wouldn't have made any difference. And what did they say? Oh yeah, about guns being used for only protection. Is that what he said? Oh yeah, during the framers' times, Robert was saying that guns were used for protection against Indians and all that, and well, that's what they're used for nowadays too. You're getting protected from the people that have other guns, but for protection, I guess.
Don't worry, I can edit it.
And increased crime because criminals would not fear disarmed citizens, and that's like particularly true in areas where police response is extremely slow. If guns were banned, only law-abiding citizens would comply. In most of today's homicides, the perpetrator is already violating a gun law, such as carrying a concealed weapon or possessing an unregistered gun. More stringent laws would be ignored in a similar fashion. Hunting license fees and ammunition taxes are one of the main sources of financial support for conservation departments and conservation projects. A reduction of gun accidents can be accomplished by compulsory gun safety education in lieu of banning guns. Stronger gun control would only create a bootleg market supported by both criminals and otherwise lawful citizens. Also, unless the states observe similar gun control laws, guns will be easy to procure across state lines.
Okay, you've got 1 more minute.
The proposal for the government to purchase all handguns would be prohibitively expensive. Disarmed citizens would be left hopeless in case of government crisis or emergency, and the banning of handguns is only the first step, which will inevitably be followed by a ban on long guns. Wait, did you say anything? More guns than
Are you done? What's all this chit chat? Okay. Very good. Do you guys have anything you want to say back to him?
Wait, what was some of the first arguments you said in the
You don't mind me to repeat them?
No.
Well, I forgot.
Well, that's pretty
I know, sorry.
I was laughing too hard. I couldn't write it all down.
Reaction shot.
Did I miss the big argument?
Right there.
Probably not.
Okay, neither of you guys will last minute comments, okay?
Well, I think.
No,
Oh, can I tell you how I feel?
Can we tell how we
No, after
seriously
they've
feel
made
about
their
it?
comments, we can talk about it.
Okay.
They have to finish those papers they have in front of their very eyes.
Oh, can we talk about them or wait?
No, you guys sit down and then we'll talk about it. Well, they finish their papers and then we will all have this very interesting.
But he left again during physics and he hasn't been back since.
Is he taking some test or something?
I don't know. Something to do with the counseling center.
Maybe he's graduating early and going on to college, right?
Maybe.
Let's see, what did I do with you guys? I think I had 10 points.
There's more A's in it.
No, that's my grading scale.
Oh, Miss Barron's what?
I get 12 points for an A and 11 points for an A minus, and so on down to F. And then I average it out. Everything has different weights. And then kids have been trying to catch me all day. Would you be quiet and write your paper?
That's a good question.
Reaction shot.
You
Yeah.
have to write your paper before we talk about it.
Yes, didn't you understand that law?
Yeah, but my
Sit there,
question
Bob.
It's the 8th week. Rush into this.
Stop it. Stop, please.
Tell my kid, I made a mistake probably because of the point number, but I'll leave it. It was my mistake. Cut. You want me to leave?
No, just go.
Sure.
Is that on?
Focus.
You're not hypertension.
No. Don't do that because it's a movie. Don't do that. It looks artificial.
You're gonna cut it out.
Step back.
Yeah.
New philosophy of life. Take a step back and laugh.
I'm
serious.
That'd be good, man.
You showed up.
You were putting on a show for this, but you wanted this bad.
Shut up.
I'm looking for a light.
Probably a good idea. What are you laughing at? What's that on yours?
This class is